Okay, good morning, Rabbi. We are continuing on Masechet Chagigah, and we are on Daf Chaf Bet Amud Aleph 22a, the bottom of the Amud, and we are continuing on the discussion of why there is a difference between Kodesh and Truma. On one hand, we mentioned that by Kodesh, we do not accept the standards of an Amaretz, an ignorant person. By we do accept it, rather by Truma, we do not accept their standards. So the question is really, what's the difference between the Kodesh and Truma? Now, this is, of course, a very complicated, we're amidst, I see there are new people in the shiur, that we're amidst a very complex discussion in the Gemara. So I'll try to clarify it as much as possible for being literally in the middle of a back and forth discussion. But nevertheless, we discuss that there is communally, there are certain things that are not dependent on every individual standard, but they are dependent on a communal standard. You have only one Beit HaMikdash. When you bring Kochim, the Kochim are only one and the same for everyone. It's the Beit HaMikdash. They either accept it from you or they don't accept it from you. And then you would have a problem if your standards are not accepted in the Beit HaMikdash. What are you going to do? There's no second place that you're going to take it to. But rather by Terumah, every person has to bring Terumah to the Levi, to the Kohen. So if you don't find the Shevet Levi, if you don't find a Kohen that accepts your standards, you will find a Kohen Amaretz. You find a Kohen that's ignorant, that doesn't have high standards. And so you bring your Terumah to the Kohen that is less stringent, and they will accept your standards. It's imagine nowadays we'll be going to someone's house and they will go, their kashrut standards are very high. So they don't accept, they keep Yashan, and they keep Chalav Yisrael, and they keep Et Yosef, and they keep this. So if you go there, and your standards are lower, so they may not eat what you make at home. So far, so you don't get accepted by them, you go get invited or invite somebody else that accepts your standards, and that's the end of it, right? There will be no real communal uproar when you have different standards. They'll just, people be different groups of people. But when you have something that's communal, then chosheshin mipnei eva, cause an uproar in the community, because if you don't have a standard that is accepted by everyone, you bring something to Beit HaMikdash, they don't accept it. You say, okay, I'm going to go build my own mizbeach and do my own paraduma. I'll make a new religion. Will be the closest religion to Judaism, right? So that is something that Chazal were extremely mindful of, because you cannot have just stringencies out of your pocket when it comes to communal things that there's no way around it if you don't accept them. That's really where we're discussing right now. So the Gemara went back and forth between Terumah and Kodesh, and the Gemara says Terumah also. If you do this tevilah, which again we were in the middle of discussion of doing a tevilah on a kli, that the opening of the kli is, the opening of the vessel is very narrow. It is shefoferet hanot, it is large enough, which halachically would check the boxes of requirement, but it is narrow enough that an onlooker would see, say, oh, I didn't know that you could do in a bottle. So next time, he's going to put also his machatin v'sinorot, his needles and small vessels inside a pipe, inside a narrow bottle, and he will use that as his tevilah. So if you do it by terumah, they'll see it as well. The Gemara says, "Lo mekabelinan minahu." We're not concerned about that, because we never accept the terumah or the keliyat terumah of Amaretz. If they bring terumah to us, we say, "No, thank you so much. I'm full," right? Right? I don't have this. That's it. So says the Gemara, wait a second. Kodesh nami lo nekabel minayu. By Kodesh also, why are you concerned that by Kodesh, you say, you, the Talmid Chacham, you, the learned one, you can't do Tevilah for Kodesh with a narrow bottle, because if you do it, the Amaretz, the ignorant, is going to also do it. So let him do it. So, and don't accept his Kodesh when he brings you Kodesh. Just like you just said, you're not going to accept his Terumah. So don't accept the Kodesh either. So the said, no, you cannot do that with Kodesh. Because if you don't accept the Kodesh from the ignorant Jew, he's going to hate you. If he's going to hate you, then you're going to be in big trouble. Why? Terumah nami havi aleh eva. Says Terumah also is going to have eva. Why are you differentiating between Terumah and Kodesh? Mara says no. Terumah lo ichbad leh. Terumah he doesn't care about because he always has an option. Terumah is a personal thing. You're not bringing Terumah to Beit HaMikdash. You give Terumah to a Kohen. So if one Kohen doesn't accept your food and your kashrut standards, you go find another person that accepts your standards. And that's going to be fine. Says the Gemara, friend, the Kohen that's ignorant, but by Kodesh you cannot do that. So what happens? Rashi says, you know what's going to happen? If somebody brings, you think about this and you think about the different movements that happened in the recent centuries, and this is what the Gemara is saying. Gemara says, if you have certain times that you're not accepting the Kodesh, so to speak, of Amaretz, is going to say, you know what? I'm going to make my own Mizbeach. I'm going to make my own religion. I'm going to put my own Kohen up there, and we're going to operate because you guys don't accept us. So it's something which, again, this is given to the Gedolei Ador to make a decision. Sometimes you have to make this difficult decision in the hashkafic things that are important enough that you're not bending. But if it's not, the Gemara has an example of this. That if you don't accept their Kodesh, so we're going to be more machmir, that you should not leave room for misunderstanding. So all of the Chaverim, all of the Talmidei Chachamim are not doing Tevilah for Kodesh in a narrow bottle, even though that it is Shoferet Anot, because we don't want them to learn. Because if they learn from it and they make a mistake, then their Kodesh is going to be Tameh. And then if we don't accept it, they're going to make a Mizbeach of their own and Para Aduma of their own, and you'll have a different religion. You hear what's happening? That's what the Gemara says. So
from the outside, how does it? Can you tell the difference between someone accepting something that's Terumah versus Kodesh? Anyways, like how would they tell the difference?
Yeah, people would know. Remember, this is something that people deal with every single day. So by Terumah I could, by Kodesh I can't. People knew that. But if he sees that something of Kodesh the Talmid Chacham is doing also, so says the Gemara, who is the Tana that is concerned about Eva, concerned about this whole thing that the Amaretz is going to hate the Talmid Chacham? Says the Gemara, is Rabbi Yossi. Uman Tana de Chayish. Who is the Tana that is Choshesh for Eva? Rabbi Yossi. The Tanya Amar Rabbi Yossi miprema kol ne'emanin al taharat hayayin v'shemen kol yemot hashana. Why is it that everybody is ne'eman, everybody is believed on taharat yayin v'shemen? What is this? Let me explain to you a preface for this. When they brought korbanot to the Beit HaMikdash, everyone brought korbanot. And when they brought the korban, they had to bring yayin for nisuch hayayin. With every korban was nisuch hayayin. They poured also wine on the mizbeach, and they also had shemen for korbanot of the meal offerings. They had shemen. So when I'm going to Beit HaMikdash, for instance, so I'm bringing a korban. So the animal is the animal, right? They're gonna shech the animal. That I don't do. The Kohen does, right? That they know what they're doing and chazak baruch. But I'm also bringing wine, and I'm also bringing shemen, depending on what korban I'm bringing. So if I am an ignorant Jew, how do you know that this is tahor? You're bringing this on top of the mizbeach, How do you know? You have to trust me that what I bring is pure and it's halachically, it's not tameh, right? Has not touched a dead body, whatever it is. Has not been in a tent of it with a corpse. Anything that could make it impure halachically. You have to trust me because you're not in my house. And when you have a Amaretz, how do you trust him? But the halacha is every Jew that comes to Beit HaMikdash, regardless of if they are a Amaretz or a Talmid Chacham, we take the Shem and say Hazaku Baruch, and we do it for Korbanot. Now, regularly speaking, by regular items in duration of Chagim, we are careful. We make care. We're lenient because people, even Amei Haaretz, they go to Tevilah. They're very careful with Chagim or Shat HaGitot when they are actually squeezing the grape juice to make wine. They're careful because it's the production system. So everyone is careful to be tahor. But during the course of the year, if you go to my house and I'm Haaretz, if you come to my house, you're not gonna touch my wine or my shemen. But if I take the same shemen to Beit HaMikdash, they accept it. Why? How does that make sense? Says the Gemara. Rabbi Yossi says, you know why? The Tanya, we learned in Braita, Amar Rabbi Yossi, during the course of the entire year, you are ne'eman al ta'arat yain v'shemen. Why? Not because that Amharetz becomes a Talmid Chacham when he comes to the Beit HaMikdash. No, he's the same bomb Amharetz that he was before. But when he comes to the Beit HaMikdash, you cannot not accept it from him, says Rabbi Yossi. Because if you don't, they're gonna go, if you reject them, they're gonna go build their own Beit HaMikdash, their own Mizbeach rather, and they're gonna get their own red heifer and try to make a para aduma, and therefore we're not going to let that happen. Amar Rapapa. Rapapa says another halacha that relates to this is Keman mekabelin haida sahaduta ma'amaretz. There is a whole sugya in Masechet Pesachim and Daf Memtet Amud Bet, page 49. There the Gemara discusses whether or not the 6 things the Gemara says that the Amaretz has, and one of them is this, that we don't accept a testimonial from a person that is not Ne'eman. So Amaretz is not Ne'eman. And Rabbi Yeshua says, so how is it that we accept Sahaduta from them? There's a whole diyun between the Rishonim and the whole discussion, how to fit this Gemara together with the Gemara in Pesachim, Daf Memtet. But nevertheless, the Gemara says, Rabbi Yeshua said, Rabbi Papa said, how do we accept the Sahadut, the testimony of Amaretz? Keman ki Rabbi Yossi is like Rabbi Yossi, because if you don't do it, if you don't accept this, the testimony of Amaretz, is going to go and create. Rashi says, got to go create his own religion and pick his own kohen and do his own thing. So these are communal things that are complicated, and again, the leadership of every generation is extremely multi-layered and complex because of these types of things. Because as strange as this Gemara sounds, because you're technically saying, and we're going to see this in just a moment by Bet Shammai in a very vivid and spelled out way, if something is tameh, how can you say it's tahor? If something is not good, how can you say it is good? But the Gemara seems to say, again, depending on how you understand this Gemara, that there are certain things communally that bend the regular way of thinking in order to keep the community intact, because anyways, the Amaretz would not listen to you otherwise. So the Gemara says, now let's go one step further. We mentioned so far that we don't use the teruma of Amaretz. If the Amaretz comes to me and offers me a teruma, I say, Chazak Baruch, I'm not hungry, right? Because I'm not sure if it's the level of kosher that it's required for me. But why aren't you careful with the kelim of Amaretz? Because it seems from the Gemara, and we will see it in just a moment, that people were neighbors. When you're neighbors in a neighborhood and you need a pan, you need a large pan because you want to cook something, and you don't have a large pan, right? Back in the day, they didn't have like Instacart and like all the Dvarim HaKadoshim that we have. So what do? You go to the next door neighbor, can I borrow your pan? That's what would happen. Like this is a regular life. People now, you're a little more religious, less religious, doesn't make a difference. They would borrow pots and pans from each other, even if the other person was the Amaretz. And that we will see in the Braita just now in a few minutes. So says the Gemara, wait a second. So you're careful not to have their teruma, but then you go borrow kelim from them. How does that work? I mean, make your mind. You either accept his standards or not accept his standards. So if you don't accept his standards, why are you using their vessels? So that's the question of the Gemara. And just to be clear, this is not standards of kashrut. This is like things that we don't deal with nowadays. It's tumah v'tahara. Everyone kept kashrut. This is like, you have to be mindful that, a corpse was not there, or someone that was a nida, or they kept tumah v'tahara. So if someone was a nida and touched a kli, that kli needed the process of tahara. If someone was not as careful, then it becomes a problem. So says the Gemara, Ditnan, how do we know that people used to exchange vessels and borrow vessels from each other? The Gemara is going to bring a whole story over here. We only need one line of this story for our purposes, but the Gemara is going to go through the whole thing. Says the Gemara, Ditnan, Kli cheres matzil al hakol. Divrei Bet Hillel. Bet Shammai omrim, eno matzil ela al ochalim ve'al mashkim. Now, there are halachot specifically to earthware. If you have a barrel made out of kli cheres, made of earthware, and it's closed, kli samid upatil, is tightly closed on the top, and then someone drops dead in the house, someone dies, right? These things happen, right? In my pastoral job, part of it is I go there when people are dying or they just died, and there are things in the house. So if something is in ohel hamet, when you have a corpse in a room or in a house, under the ceiling, everything under that ceiling is in ohel hamet, just like the Torah says. If it's an ohel hamet, they become tameh. This is clearly mentioned in the Torah itself. And the Torah says, what's the exception? Exception is kli that's samidu patil. If you have a kli cheres that is tightly closed on top, the content of that kli would not become tameh. Fine. So says the Gemara, this machloket Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel in two levels of tum'ah when you have, let's say, a corpse in the house. One is, imagine if you have a corpse in this room, and you have all the things that are in this room, and then you have a kli cheres that's closed. So other things become tameh. This kli cheres does not become tameh, the content of it inside. The second scenario is, imagine you have a second story on top of this, and one of these panels are not here, right? It's open to the top floor. You need a minimum of tefach al tefach. It's not a whole lot. Like a tefach al tefach. If that opening is there, then the tum'ah ascends to the top floor as well. This is, by the way, the difficulty that you have when you have, let's say, in Sharet Tzedek hospital or Hadassah hospital, when you have Jewish hospitals in Eretz Yisrael, and there are Kohanim who work there, or there are visitors that they go there. So do you become tameh and just go to the hospital? People are dying all the time, and the majority, here you could say the majority are not Jewish. So a corpse of a goy, if you touch it, is tameh, but it doesn't have tum'at ohel. Tum'at ohel is for Jewish corpse. So if you have something like that, you have to have a proper institution that they could block the tum'ah, that the whole hospital just doesn't become tameh like that, based on what the Torah says. So it's a complicated thing to get around, but nevertheless, says the Mishnayot say that if you have a tefach al tefach, then the tum'ah ascends to the second floor as well. So says the Mishnah. if we have machloket bet Hillel bet Shammai, keli cheres matzil ala kol, bet Hillel say kli cheres saves everything. Anything that's in the kli cheres, that's samid upatil, you're good to go. If you have your shoes inside a kli cheres, if you have it's not just food, whatever you have inside this kli cheres, the kli cheres saves it from becoming tameh. But Shammai say, "Eno matzil ela al ochalim v'al mashkim." Says no, it only saves food and drinks, and kli cheres. And if it has another smaller kli cheres, earthwork vessel inside of it, then it saves on those, but nothing else. And the same would be by the upstairs case, right? Amru lahem bet. In other words, if you have the opening to the ceiling, and on the second floor you have food, you have vessels, you have, so Bet Hillel say, if you had, in other words, what's the case? The case is you have the opening, let's say one tile is missing, right? But you put this big kli cheres and covered it. You have a hole over here to the second floor, and you took a kli cheres and you just blocked the hole with the kli cheres. So now there's nothing going up, it's blocked. So does this kli cheres stop the tum'ah from spreading upstairs to the second floor? So Bet Hillel say, yeah, it saves everything. But Shammai say, no, it doesn't save everything. Any food or drink that you have on the second floor is good. Any kli cheres that you have on the second floor is good. Everything else is tameh. So now, if you hear that, you say, well, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense. Because you either have tum'ah going up or you don't have tum'ah going up. You can have a reality in logic that the tum'ah is not going up for this, but it's going up for that. What kind of halakha is that? That's like the most strange thing you could ever say, right? Now, so the Gemara is going to ask this. Not only the Gemara is going to ask this, the Gemara is going to say that Rabbi Yeshua disgraced Bet Shammai for this same question. He says, what kind of thing is this that you say? He says, I am embarrassed to hear that someone like Bet Shammai would say such a absurd svara. That's exactly what's going to happen in the Gemara, and then you'll see what happens with that. Says the Gemara, Bet Shammai omrim, why is this? You know why? Because we're talking about the kli cheres that itself is tameh. Now, there's a concept that we never knew before, and we're going to learn about it now. A kli cheres only saves the tum'ah from passage if the kli cheres itself was tahor. If you have a kli cheres that in itself is tameh, it's not a blockage. So, says Bet Shammai, you know why? Because we're talking about the kli cheres of amaretz. We're talking about the scenario that this kli cheres belongs to an ignorant Jew that doesn't know how to keep the halachot of tum'ah v'tahara. So therefore, the kli cheres itself is tameh, it's not tahor. And kli cheres that's tameh does not block tum'ah. We know that, right? So then the Gemara says, and keli cheres that is in itself is tameh does not block the tum'ah from spreading. Amru lahem Bet Hillel. Bet Hillel says, so wait a second. Says, so make your mind. If it is a kli that's tameh itself, so how in the world are you telling me that the food is tahor? You're telling the guys coming to ask you a question. You're telling them you could eat the food, you could drink the drinks. Your kli cheres that was inside of this kli cheres is tahor, but the rest of the things are tameh. And when I ask you why, you tell me because the kli was not a blockage. So if it's not a blockage, why everything else is tahor? It makes no sense what you're saying. You hear a problem over here. So really, this question was asked by Bet Hillel themselves. So says the Gemara, Amrahem Bet Shammai answered them, when we said that the ochalim and mashkim that are inside of this kli cheres, this earthwork, we said it for the Amhares himself because he's going to eat it. He's not going to listen to you. So this is a very interesting strange phenomenon. The Mefarshim struggle with this because you tell him because he's not going to listen to you, you tell him he's tahor when it's really tameh. Okay, so we have to come back to this in just a moment. And this is the punchline. Rabotai, listen to this. This is why we brought this whole this whole Mishnah because of this line. But to say that the metal, the pan, the metal pan is tahor, that one we can't say because that's not only for him, that's also for you. Why is it for you? Because people used to borrow from each other. That's the proof that you see from this Mishnah. People used, even a Talmid Chacham, used the vessels of Amaretz. He says, I could tell you that his food, you're not going to eat his food. So his food, I could tell him is tahor. But his vessel, I can't tell him is tahor because you got to use that too. So you see from this Mishnah that people actually exchanged, neighbors exchanged vessels, even if one of them was Amaretz, one of them was Talmid Chacham, they did use each other's vessels. That the Gemara could have really stopped here because that's all we needed from this piece of the Gemara. We're in the middle of discussion of vessels of Talmid Chacham for Terumah, for Kodesh, and the Gemara asked a question, said, even though that you don't use their Terumah, but you use their vessels, so how can you tell me that you could, in front of an ignorant Jew, you could use this Tevilat Kelim with a narrow bottle, which only has Shifoferet Anot, and you're not concerned that he's going to learn, and he's going to do it in the wrong way, and he's going to end up with a Kli that's Tameh. You're going to borrow that Kli from him. How can you not be concerned? Okay, you're not going to take the Terumah, but you're going to take the Kli, you're going to take the vessel. That's all we're doing here. Now, we got involved with a very interesting and intricate Mishnah because we wanted to bring this, and the Gemara is not going to stop here. We're going to finish it, right? But just bear in mind that this is what we wanted, and we're going to come back to this in a moment, okay? Says the Gemara, Tanya, Amar Rabbi Yusha, this is what we said. Rabbi Yusha said, when he heard this discussion between Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai, he said, Boshni midivrechem Bet Shammai. I'm embarrassed from the words of Bet Shammai. Because what comes out, imagine you have this case of the second floor with a hole that you covered with a kli cheres, and a woman is sitting up there, right? And she's kneading dough for bakery, right? And someone drops dead downstairs. So what happens, according to Bet Shammai? Something extremely strange, and it makes no sense what they say. Says the Gemara, Isha lasha ba'areva, a woman is in second floor, and second floor is sitting down and kneading a dough. Isha ba'areva temein, shiv'a, the woman is going to be tameh tumat shiva. No, when you become tameh met, it's not that you go to mikveh today and you're good to go. You need 7 days of process in the time of the Beit HaMikdash. You need that 7 days of process, and a lot goes into the process of clearing your tum'ah from the tum'at met of corpse. So the areva, the bowl, the metal bowl, is going to be tameh. The woman is going to be tameh, and the dough that is inside the areva, as she is kneading it, is tahor. The dough is pure, the woman is tameh, and the bowl is tameh. What sense does that make? How can you say such a thing? I'm embarrassed to hear such a thing, says Rabbi Yeshua. Well, he's basically saying the same thing that Bet Hillel said, but he's saying it with a sharp language, with a disgrace. And this is going to be a musar, by the way, because whenever you want to be very strong and write someone off like that, think twice, right? Because now he's gonna pay the price for this. Says the Gemara, Login malem mashkin, you have a whole bottle full of drinks. The bottle is tameh, and the content of the bottle is tahor. Makes no sense. It's the same question he's asking. Says the Gemara, Nitfa lo talmid echad mitalmidei Bet Shammai. One of the students of Bet Shammai said, can I explain to you why? He says, yes, go ahead. So go ahead, explain. Amar lo. So he says to him, Omar lecha ta'aman shel Bet Shammai. I will explain to you the reason of Bet Shammai. Amar lo emor. Said, go ahead, say it. go through the basic logics over here. When you have a kli cheres that it itself is tameh, does it block tuma or does it not block tuma? What's the halacha? So Rabbi Shua said, of course, it does not block tuma. That we know. Amalo, eino chotzitz. It does not. Then you follow-up question. Kli shel haaretz tameh o tahor. If you have an ignorant person that doesn't know how to keep tumah v'tahara, is not careful, his regular vessels are tameh or tahor. So tameh. He answered him, Amalo, tameh. It's good, tameh. Then he asks his final third follow-up. Ve'imata omer lo tameh lu mashkiach alecha. So if you ask him, if you tell him that your food, your vessels are tameh, is he going to listen to you? Ve'lo'od, he didn't let him answer. He says, Ve'lo'od, not only that he's not going to listen to you, ela sheimata omer lo tameh, if you tell him that your vessels and your food is tameh, omer lecha, he's going to answer you, sheli tahor ve'shelcha tameh. He says, mine is tahor, yours is tameh. A new religion over here, right? That's exactly what the Gemara is saying. So what kind of answer is that, by the way? And that's the reason of Bet Shammai. What kind of answer is this, by the way? Before we hear what Rabbi Yeshua said, what kind of answer is this? So it's very cryptic. Rashi explains it like this. Rashi says, look, kli cheres that becomes tameh from Torah, what's the halacha? You can't fix it, you have to break it. Food that becomes tameh, what's the halacha? You have to trash it. But a vessel that the blockage is only a temporary blockage, a metal vessel that you have. When it becomes tameh, what do you do with it? You dip it, you go clean it. That's it. So it says Rashi, but Shammai says the Amaris is not going to listen to you if you tell him to trash his things, to break his clean. He's not holding in that madriga. So if you tell him something that is over his head, he's going to fire back, and it's not going to work. But if you tell him, look, this vessel became tameh, just go to Tevilah and it says Chazak Baruch, trash. It's gonna go do it, right? And therefore, we tell him only things that he could handle. That Shammai said. So all of the food and the kli cheres is going to be tahor. Not that's really tahor. We're going to tell him because he's not going to listen otherwise. But all the other kelim that could have a tahara process, we say it's not tahor, and he's going to go through the tahara process. Now we have a lot of problems with this because how in the world can you say such a thing that it's not halachically feasible, it's not halachically viable? It's something that Bezat Hashem will discuss in this time.
You're gonna have to pause the.
Yeah.